Cory, thank you so much for joining us today. As we begin, for listeners who don't know you yet, can you say a few words about your current role and what's in your purview?
Sure. So my name is Cory Musselman, and Misha, thank you for having me. Greatly appreciate it. I'm the Chief Information Security Officer at Kyndryl.
Hmm.
Kyndryl is actually the largest IT and cybersecurity managed service provider in the world. I'm responsible for protecting Kyndryl and its customers. So my
Hmm.
remit really comes across four different areas. It's the cyber governance, risk, and compliance. So all the things that we do around policy, risk management, education and awareness, all of those sort of what I would call the softer side of cybersecurity.
Hmm.
I've then got our security architecture and engineering team, right? So how we try to build cybersecurity into the solutions that we use for ourselves and our customers.
Hmm.
Cybersecurity operations. So think about our cybersecurity intelligence and response team, all of our cybersecurity capabilities, whether it's SIM, whether it's network defenses, whether it's endpoint defenses.
Hmm.
And then the last part of my remit is maybe a bit unusual. So I actually am responsible for the network for Kyndryl. So I
Mm,
have both the network operations and the network transformation as well.
interesting. Makes sense. And so this kind of paints the picture of where you are at this point in your career. But how did you get started in cybersecurity? What was the first door, so to speak, that you knocked on?
Yeah, getting into cybersecurity has been a bit of a winding journey for me, and I know from talking to some others that I'm not alone in that. I got in about 10 years ago, so I've been in the industry about a decade, but I started my career as a software developer and a software engineer, right? My background is a degree in computer science. I spent almost all of my career in the U.S. defense contracting space. So Kyndryl is sort of my foray into the commercial world. I started as a software developer. As I mentioned, I moved into some technical leadership roles, eventually some technical project management roles, and then more into technical program management, where
Hmm.
I was running programs for a variety of government contractors and portfolios in a variety of agencies supporting the U.S. Department of Defense.
Hmm.
Once along that journey, I had a mentor and a leader who talked to me about taking over and leading one of our company's largest cybersecurity programs. And being very honest, I looked at him and I said, "Well, why do you want me? That's not what I'm involved in." And his response to me, and this is something I've really taken away in my career, is, "I need a strong leader. You can learn what I need you to learn."
Mm,
And my background is one of, if I'm going to lead something, I want to understand it. So I dove in with both feet to try to understand the discipline. I would sit with analysts on the floor and talk to them about what they did and how they did it and their challenges. I sat with engineers. I sat with risk assessors. I sat with architects so I could absorb and learn as much as I could. And I had some great teachers, right? I have to give them credit. And then over the years, I moved into running the global cyber operations for one of those companies in defense space. And that's sort of where I then transitioned to Kyndryl.
interesting. Interesting. Well, it's interesting that I mean we talk to CISOs in our community, and it seems like there's no one standard way of. There's no some people. It's they switch as you did from technology to cybersecurity. Other people and join the military, and that's technology is
Yeah.
part of what they do, and that's kind of their point. Sometimes it's completely unrelated functions, but from it's through your career you achieved success, and that gives you a certain perspective and certain vantage point. I wonder, what would be your advice for someone who's junior, who's looking at cybersecurity space and either trying to, as you did, trying to switch from technology to cybersecurity, seeing all the growth and all the opportunity, but also maybe someone who's even more junior, maybe in college, trying to figure out what to do with their life. What would be your advice to them on where to spend time, what to invest on to set them up for success?
Yeah, I actually love this part of my role, right? I actually do roundtables with some of our early career folks, a couple times a year, just
Hmm.
to talk about, because I had such good mentors in my career, right? For me, it's like, how can I give back and help others? So I think I was talking about a couple of different things with early career folks or folks that are looking to transition, right? And
Mhm.
invest in the knowledge, in the discipline and associated disciplines, right? Whether you want to be a cyber defense analyst, whether you want to be a cyber governance person, right? The first step is understanding the disciplines that you're doing. So that's the easy one, right? And invest in those things. But what I think a lot of folks don't think about is it's never too early to invest in mentors,
Mm.
invest in your network, invest in different experiences, right? So I look at, we talked just now about my background. I also have done things on the business side, right? Leading programs, writing proposals, sitting with customers and working one-on-one with them, doing business development. And that gave me a really good broad spectrum. So
Mhm.
when I came into more senior leadership roles, I wasn't just looked at as the technical person, but I brought that kind of business side of it as well.
Mhm.
So, and then I think another piece I give folks advice on, and this is hard earlier in your career, but continue to think about: do you want to stay on a technical track, or
Mm.
do you really want to get into more management and leadership roles? Because at a certain point in your career, the way you approach those things was probably going to be a little different, right? If you're going to stay, you want to be the technical expert on cybersecurity on your team, then you need to invest more in that technical knowledge and certifications and in those kinds of things. If
Mhm.
you really want to move into more leadership roles, then you have to find mentors and invest in some other things, in soft skills, in understanding the business and those kinds of components, as well as having enough of the sort of that technical knowledge.
Mhm.
I also like to tell folks, not career growth doesn't look like a ladder, right? I think a lot of early career folks think that every step along their journey is going to be a step up the organization, and it just doesn't work like that. I've had plenty of great career growth opportunities moving laterally,
Mhm.
right? At same level, different role, same level, different organization.
Mhm.
Those are important, right? Getting that kind of broad breadth, it's really valuable. It's not always going to be a step up.
Mhm.
And
It's
then the
interesting.
last thing I tell folks is I look at my career growth, and I think it is for a lot of people. It's a third of your knowledge and skill, a third of hard work and dedication, and a third luck. And folks, when I say that, sometimes kind of look at me sideways. But the reality is, you can't control always when opportunities are going to present themselves for you.
Mhm.
You can't control where you're at in your life when those opportunities present themselves to you. But you have to have the first two thirds, right? The knowledge and the skill and the dedication and the hard work to be ready to take advantage of the luck when it comes. And just because you have the first two things doesn't mean the luck's always going to come when you want it to, but you
Mhm.
have to have those to take advantage when it comes.
It's interesting. Well, it's kind of you have to increase the surface area of luck, making yourself available for
Yes.
different opportunities, investing in the network as you suggested, so that you're aware that those opportunities exist. So,
Yes, absolutely.
and hard work is also important because I forgot who said this, but someone made a comment about luck, and the person said, "Well, the harder I work, the luckier I
Yep.
get." So it's certainly it's the most difficult component. This is very interesting, but it's also it seems like it's not just the ingredients of success, but also the sequence. So
Yes.
invest early on in exposure to different areas of cybersecurity, so you have this breadth, and you can pick on one area that you can be continuously excited and curious about for a long time, but also decide when you want to be technical, when you want to invest in leadership, and because it's also kind of path dependent, but getting exposure. There's this famous concept in topography, which is a section of math, local maxima. That, to your point, that you may decide the career path and get to the top only to realize that that's not the top you want to be on, and there's a higher top. You just didn't see it at the time.
Exactly.
So getting exposure, kind of broad exposure, allows you to optimize for the right thing over the long term. This is awesome. This I think is super helpful. Switching gears a little bit, one thing about cybersecurity that I find interesting is that it doesn't stay still. There's always something new. There's new technology. Then there's new government regulation. Geopolitics plays into that. New threat actors it's constant three-dimensional game of chess that
Yes.
the rules of engagement change all the time. So as of right now, from the CISO position, what are three themes, challenges that are top of mind for you, and you think for the CISO community as a whole? What three ideas, themes, threats or challenges are top of mind?
Yeah, Misha, to your point, right? I mean, you think about all of the threats that are out there in cybersecurity and how that impacts the business. I mean, the Kyndryl Readiness Report recently highlighted that, cybersecurity is still a top concern for business leaders, right? Probably no surprise. 65% of executives worried about cyber attacks. But the interesting thing to me in our report was only 30% of those that are worried about attacks think they're ready to manage the risks. And so when I look at those risks, I think there's some things that are ubiquitous that a lot of cybersecurity professionals worry about, right? We're always going to worry about nation state actors, right? And just look at the recent news, what's going on with the global telecoms. We're always going to worry about retaining, growing, and bringing in talent and sort of all those things. But as I look at what Kyndryl's challenges are today, what I'm really focused on, the three things that jump out to me, the first one is the velocity of change, right? You just hinted at it, right? And what do I mean by that? You've got technologies constantly changing, right? Moore's law is still well and alive in so many ways, but it's also the velocity of change in attacks and threat actors and those things. Change in the vendor landscape, right? All the consolidation that's been happening in different areas. You look at the change, we talk about quantum and we've been talking about it for many years. It's right there on the edge of the horizon at this point, and we've all relied on encryption. And now we all have to figure out what we're going to do. So that velocity of change has been a huge thing. But I'd be remiss if I didn't bring out Gen AI and AI, right? I mean, it's on the top of everybody's minds, and it's all the different facets I think that make it a challenge. It's protecting the data that companies are putting into it, protecting the models that data runs on. How do then we as cyber defenders use it to our advantage to protect our companies? And then obviously, how do we defend against it when threat actors are using it? I mean, I use one example, right? I look at the growing sophistication in social engineering, the deep fake videos, the deep fake audio that's out there. And a lot of these attacks are coming through modalities that aren't part of traditional security stacks, right? They're coming through SMS, they're coming through other messaging services. So they're outside what we typically have in a way to defend against it. So we've really pivoted when it comes to this to education and awareness. We really invest a lot of time in it, and it's a real focus for us now. We work on it all year long, right? It's not a once a year thing we do during Cyber Awareness Month, right? It is an all year thing. We deliver it timely. We try to make it engaging and fun. I use a funny example when we did a recent education on how to identify deepfake. My team made deepfakes of me singing nursery rhymes, right, as the example, right? So we try to find it fun, but I think velocity of change is one of those things that I'm really focused on. The second, third-party risk, and to that I would add fourth and fifth and sixth-party risk. The way the technology landscape has gone today, I don't think any company is self-sufficient. You've got partners out there that you're using from a technology perspective, partners that you're bringing into your environment to, contract staff or what have you to help you, and understanding how your environment and your data connects to your third and fourth and fifth party environments, what data is going there, what's their security posture, who has access to your environment, what's being sent to them, right? That is such a difficult thing. And with the growing number of third parties involved, the real uncomfortable thing is we all have to prioritize, right? We can't treat all of our third and fourth and fifth parties the same. How do we then prioritize those that are most risky to us?
That makes sense.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
The last one I'll hit real quick, and it might seem a bit of an odd one for me to say it's a top three for me, but when I look at Kyndryl as a global business, it's actually the disharmony that exists in global regulations around cybersecurity and privacy and AI. You look at, if I take the United States just as a microcosm, the different agencies within the US government all have different rules, right? You just look at incident reporting. The timelines are different for the SEC than they are for the Department of Defense, than they are for other US government agencies. That's hard enough. You add in, countries around the globe, right? India's got one, the EU has them, Australia, Japan, I could go on and on. Folks, I don't think always understand how difficult and complex it becomes to be able to apply your processes and workflows when the regulations are so very different around the globe. There's a lot of work, a lot of time that has to go in, a lot of partnership with other parts of the organization. My great legal department, our great communications department, right? The delivery stakeholders at Kyndryl, right? All of those things have to come together. So staying on top of all of that's hugely important.
Absolutely. So many doors to, so many rabbit holes to tumble into.
Yeah.
What you said, I wanted to double click on something that you said in the beginning. Is there are so many different things, and it's just a matter of priority, a matter of focus. I remember listening to some of these Senate hearings about some of the major breaches, and I think it was in healthcare, and it turned out that the multi-factor authentication was not turned on, and it was the reason for the main reason for the breach. That something that fairly common housekeeping variety of cybersecurity, that it's fairly simple. It's not related to kind of new advanced technology. It's not complicated. So I wonder, when focusing on the new things, how do you think CISOs should decide in terms of priority, kind of getting the base level taken care of? As this famous joke, I don't need to run faster than the bear. I need to run faster than the other hunter, right? So you don't want to be an easy target for the hacker. How much time and focus and headspace should CISOs dedicate to just fixing the baseline, and then how should they split time, and then addressing some of the ever increasing, ever emerging challenges, whether it's quantum computing or Gen AI, and all other things that you mentioned?
No, it's a really great question, and it's a bit ironic to me because when I came to Kyndryl and put together the strategy for the program, the first pillar of the program was what I call cyber hygiene, right? It is those foundational things that you have to do well, right? Do you have the right inventory? Do you know what you have, what's on it, what does it talk to? Do you have the basic controls in place? And without those things, all the advanced stuff, all the stuff that we like to talk about because it's cool and fun, if you don't have the basics done, none of that's going to matter, right? I give an analogy from all of my time in the US defense industry, right? You can have the most sophisticated submarine in the world. It can be the most stealthy. It could have the best weapon system, the best electronics, right? The best propulsion. But if you leave the hatches open when you submerge, that submarine's still going to sink, right? This is what we're talking about. I mean, studies continue to show that if you do the basics well, if you patch your vulnerabilities, if you have good inventory, you have multi-factor turned on, you do good education and training, the likelihood of attack goes down for exactly the reason you said. A lot of attackers are going to find the easier targets, right? I mean, it's like your house. If you leave the windows and doors wide open, the thief may come to you before they come to your neighbor because they've got their doors locked and their windows shut.
Exactly. You just don't. You want to make sure that you're not an easy target as the baseline,
Yep.
and go from there. Absolutely. And then, um, for listeners who are not Fortune 500 companies, but probably mid-size, and they're trying to figure out if they need to build their stand up their own program, or outsource, go MSSP route, what will be your advice, assuming they're taking care of the the kind of baseline security? What should they focus on? Should they focus on education and help employees discern phishing email versus legitimate business email, on being always alert about communication outside of the normal channels? To your point, I think there are stories out there when tech person receives a text message from allegedly the CEO, hey, I'm stuck in a cab. I need immediate access to this presentation. Can you override
Yeah.
uh, password reset? Uh, what are some of the areas, assuming again the basic hygiene is taken care of, someone who is a mid-sized CISO, what should they be thinking about?
I mean, look, I look at this right as every company is a little different, right? Their risk tolerance is different depending on what they do and the services they provide. And
Mm-hmm.
frankly, their risk profiles are different too, based on the same thing. So I don't know that there's an easy answer that crisscrosses, right? Some of it is understanding your company's risk tolerance and your risk profile. But if you've got all the basics right, you've got all that cyber hygiene done, right? To me, then it becomes, can you get an understanding of how you're being attacked and focus the next level of things you do on that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I think we look at the sort of the things we see in the news and assume that that's what we have to focus on. The reality is not every company gets attacked the same way. So if you can get an understanding of how you're being attacked, right, is are you seeing a preponderance of phishing, right? And is it phishing with URLs? Is it phishing with attachments? Is it social engineering? Do you see folks trying to exploit vulnerabilities on your internet facing devices more so than anything else, right? If you can get an understanding of that, focus there. Keep an eye on what your trends look like, right? Because the better you get maybe at defending against phishing, if that's how you're being attacked, attackers aren't dumb. They're going to switch tactics and move to something else. So you got to sort of follow your trends, but pay attention to how you're being attacked and engage in those areas. That's going to have the best bang for your buck.
Makes sense. It probably would tell you where your weakest link is, right? Because from the attacker perspective,
Yep,
they want something that's easier, not more difficult. So
correct.
they would not attack the castle head on. They'll try to find a little door that's open that no one is paying attention to. And,
Absolutely.
and if you see that, that's where that it would make sense to focus your attention. It makes a lot of sense. Uh, I always hear conversations that the role of CISOs is changing in a way that in the past there was a running joke that it's a department of no. That's where all the new initiatives go to die because there was no way for us to implement this new initiative in a secure way. I think CISOs are realizing that what they bring to the table is so much more than that because customers of the business expect cybersecurity as part of the value proposition. So actually, we hear a lot of times that CISOs are brought in on the business conversations with clients, so the clients or potential clients can be assured that whatever product they're buying or service they're buying will not expose them in a certain way or will not become a cybersecurity risk. But it's quite a shift in mental shift because especially for someone who came up through the technical with a technical background to wear this business hat is sometimes is a challenge. And I know you've done it all. What would be your advice for someone who is just realizing that not only they're tasked with keeping the internal infrastructure secure, but also explaining it to a potential client or an existing client, and switching from Department of No to actually enabling new initiatives and new initiatives in a secure way.
Yeah, and it's like going back to what we talked about, advice to junior, or early career folks, right? Getting that breadth is important, and it's been valuable for me, right? Having been, I'll say, a customer of cybersecurity through the early part of my career, I had a good understanding of, hey, those folks are doing that. It makes my life harder. That's been real benefit to me as I've gone into cybersecurity over the last decade, but also being able to sit with customers and understand their challenges, being able to sit with senior executive leaders and see how people have approached talking about IT or cybersecurity initiatives in a business sense
Mhm.
was really valuable to me because you have to be able to convert cybersecurity risk into business speak because the reality is, to exactly your point, today there is cybersecurity risk doesn't exist on an island. It's not its own. It is business risk, right? Whether it's data loss, whether it's system compromise, whether it's customer data that's been compromised. It's a business risk with real negative, consequences to it. So I do get involved in conversations with my peers at our customers. I do have to do a lot of conversion of what is technical speak for our senior executives, because they want to understand it in business risk. A perfect example is a little over a year ago, I gave a presentation to our senior executives and our board of directors on zero trust. I related everything we did from a technology perspective, from a zero trust side, to flying on an airplane, right? Everything from buying your ticket all the way to getting off the airplane. And I walked them through a synonym for everything. And they all said how much it helped them be able to understand the technology jargon in something that was very obvious to them, that they do all the time, right? Buying an airline ticket, going to the airport, going through TSA, getting on the airplane, getting off the airplane, getting there, like they were able to relate it. So finding ways to relate that sort of technical jargon into business speak and business risk, hugely important, not just for customers, but even for your own leadership.
Absolutely. Makes a lot of sense. Cory, I know we're coming up on time. A few final questions we always ask. Imagine you have a crystal ball and you can see into the future. 12 months from now, 24 months from now, CISOs will be anxious about, concerned about, scared about, excited about what 3 ideas, themes, technologies?
God, I wish I had a crystal ball. I'd have used it on lottery tickets, so I'd be sitting on a beach right now with an umbrella drink, but I'll do my best, right? We talked about Gen AI already. I don't think I can avoid it here, right? It's not going away in the next 12 to 24 months. I think it's going to continue to be a big part of the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
The second thing I'd say is cyber resilience, right? We have historically talked about cybersecurity. The reality is, for all the reasons we've talked about already today, there are going to be successful attacks. You have to be able to figure out, how do you limit the blast radius? How do you keep functioning in the midst of an attack? How do you recover quickly, right? So it creates a bit of a broader view of just cybersecurity and sort of gets at cyber resilience.
Mm-hmm.
And the third one I'll hit is broad data security. We've talked a lot over the last 10, 15 years about DLP, but mm-hmm. We've got to look at a more comprehensive data security strategy with cloud and SaaS applications being so much of the ecosystem today. Understanding how do we protect data, both where it is, how it's in transit with quantum on the horizon and the challenges that it's going to bring to encryption, a mm-hmm. holistic strategy on data security that takes into account AI and privacy, as well as the technology, I think is going to be very important.
Interesting. Well, I hope we'll get a chance to talk again in 12 months or 24 months, and we'll look back and say if you should start buying those lottery tickets or not.
There you go.
Sounds good. Well, and as if we have a few minutes, AI is obviously top of mind for so many people, and there are separate aspects of it. So one of it is how AI will make the job of SOC analyst easier, or will SOC analysts be replaced by AI? So it's how AI can be used for security operations or security teams internally. That's question number one. Question number two, how AI deployed within the organization will be done in a secure way so it doesn't leak private data to, I don't know, DeepSeek is probably a good example of that. So that's question number two. Question number three, deepfakes, how AI will be used as an attack, or either as an attack vector or as an enabler of an attack, social engineering, deepfakes, take your pick. So of the three, which one do you think will be the most relevant in 12 months?
Of the three, I think the most relevant would probably be number two, right? There's so many businesses, right? I don't want to say all, but it feels like all, who are absolutely engaging in AI and understanding how AI can help the business. We've got to do that in a secure way, right? We early on, we saw missteps from some companies, a year, 18 months ago, where there was, proprietary data that went into models that shouldn't have gone in the models, right? You've got, we talked earlier about the regulations that are out there globally And we have to understand how the different privacy regulations impact how we use AI. So with every company trying to find a way to get value out of AI, I think the big one, if I have to pick one of the three, because I think they're all really important, it would be that one because it's going to get used, right? The businesses are going to use it. How do we partner with the business to make sure that it's being done securely?
Absolutely. Makes a lot of sense. Cory, this was lots of fun. Where can people find you?
My LinkedIn profile is my big one. I'm also on X. Those are my big two. And then certainly as we do work here at Kyndryl, we'll put out publications from myself and my colleagues.
Absolutely. Cory, thank you so much. This was
Thank you. It was great. Thanks for having me.
absolutely.